is our goal? Happiness. But more? Self-mastery. Sanskrit word for wisdom? Prajna. Prajna. Are you comfortable with Devraj? If you are not, then I can just write it in English. Prajna. Or wisdom, which comes from self-mastery, self-empowerment. But what are these four pillars that gain us, that gives us the boost, propels us towards? First is achara. Achara. Then vichara. Then Shraddha, and then finally Sewa. And we will touch upon each, and we'll see how this is inbuilt in our system, and how we can use advantage of this towards my own self-improvement, self-mastery, so that I am equipped for the onslaught that is going to come, the information onslaught that is going to come with the AI. It's going to happen in 5-10 years. This will give you a lot of value as you grow up and operate in the new world order. A new world order is coming. We don't have to invent anything new. We need to just dig deeper, connect with our roots, and extract what the rishis have been trying to tell us. Because this is as relevant. These are timeless traditions. That's why we call it Sanatana Dharma. They are not relevant. So this is a fallacy that all this was relevant in the times of Ramayana and Mahabharata and has no relevance now. That's a big fallacy. That is actually undermining the benefits it has for us to face the new world. These are timeless traditions. Timeless traditions. So achara is, in short, it's an honorable conduct. Honorable conduct towards each other, towards elders, towards parents, towards teachers. It's the sense of what we bring in when we approach them. How do we interact with them? What is our body language? How do we sit? Achara is something just learned. It is passively learned. Nobody is going to sit down and give a formal education on achara. But this is something we absorb in our household as we are growing up. How do we talk to parents? How do we perambulate the parents? How do we perambulate the grandparents? How do we bow down and touch their feet? This is achara. This is an honorable conduct. And so why is this so important and is not merely a ritual? It can become only a ritual when you are half-hearted, when you don't have your spirit behind it. Your spirit behind any ritual makes it spiritual. Right? When you put your Shraddha, and these are all interconnected, each one will build the other. This is the beauty of the spiraling pyramid. They are not independent, exclusive pillars going towards Prajna. They are, I hold on to achara with Shraddha, with Vichara, with the Bhava of Sewa. My achara is strengthened. And so, each one of this, we are building each other as a quality. So, when I approach my grandparents and my elders and my teacher with the bhava of Shraddha and touch their feet, it makes a big difference. And how does it benefit you? Though you're not doing it for your own benefit, it is a sort of, no one taught you like this, do this so that you will benefit. No, that's not how the traditional teaching is. But now we're talking about it because we are so material oriented that we want to know what is the outcome of anything we do. We want to know. Though traditionally it was never like that. Traditionally you just do. And then later on, when you grow older and more mature and more wiser, then you look back and see how these activities helped me in my journey towards becoming wiser. How each of these small actions was so important and critical. At that time I did not know the meaning. But now I know how this built me towards where I am today. And that is Acharya. When we approach like that, when we approach with the bhava of, yes, paying respect for the Guru and the teachers, we are absorbing and soaking in their blessings. Those blessings are very powerful to bless my teaching. Education is one thing, but education when it is blessed is very powerful. Ultimately, the goal is to use, the meaning of education is to use the knowledge at the right time for the right purpose. Then that education is supposed to bless you. And that blessing comes from Acharya. So when we do Guru Vandana in Shakha, there is this event that we bring all the teachers and the students line them up, the kids line up, and they're given some rice, uncooked rice as an akshata. And even here, right here. And then the students bow down and touch the teacher's feet and the teachers put the rice. Ritual, simple ritual. But the teachers, after the program is over, they have tears in their eyes. It's a very powerful thing. Perhaps this is the first time that they are reminded so strikingly about their position in society, how much influence they have on the kids in shaping. That's what brings the tears. It's the bhava with which the action is done, little kids touching their feet, that brings out that yes, I am a teacher and I am responsible for these, not only just education, but shaping the characters and molding the personality of a child through my teachings. And so the teacher will also adhere to their job with a lot more shraddha and lot. It's not ancient India. Education was not a commodity. We never bought education. Two things was never purchased. We didn't put a dollar value, a currency value for these two things. One was food and the other was education. So when you say Guru Dakshina, Dakshina was not a fee for the teachings. Dakshina was the love, the achara of the student. With Shraddha, they go out after the teaching is over. After the education is over, the student goes to the real world, applies that education, earns a living. From that first earning, the student has to figure out what my teacher loves the most, what is dear to my teacher. And from that earning, the student buys whatever and brings it back to the teacher. After the education, graduation is over, it comes back. And that first earning gift to the teacher, given with a lot of love, is Acharya, is the Guru Dakshina. So, how is clear about Acharya? Acharya is the stepping stone about, and every household will have it. As Indians, we are growing it. We have certain ways of doing things. We just need to be reminded again and again about the importance of this, because it sets the tone for teaching and education and higher purpose. Then comes Vichara. Now Vichara is rational deliberation. Spirituality is not devoid of rational deliberation. We are a tradition of knowledge. We are not a tradition of belief or faith. Faith is something we elaborate on when we come to Shraddha. But Vichara means rational deliberation. I am not going to keep my rational mind outside the door when I have to take anything. So, Upanishad, Yoga Vashishta, Bhagavad Gita, all our scriptures are based on question answers. Samvada. The student asks the question and the teacher responds. But the questions have to be meaningful, with vichara. There is healthy skepticism and then there is argumentative skepticism. We are not just going to be skeptical with an agenda, with an argumentative, which is, I want to highlight this because today's modern society will train you in the speech and debate. How to ask you gotcha questions. How to lead someone to a trap and then prove that you're wrong. Just for the sake of it, so that you win a debate. That's not vichara. Vichara means rational deliberation. That means I have a doubt or I have a dilemma and I am open-minded and I respect you. Right? And then enlighten me. So, vichara means, in the temples we get piping hot sambar in thermocol or styrofoam boxes. Asking the question is vichara. Is this really good for health? Or are we taking something that is not good for health in the name of prasad? Right? So just because it's prasada in the temple doesn't make it pure and sanctified. So that kind of questioning you should have. Not for argumentative skill, but for real enlightenment. Vichara also means differentiating between what is pursuit worthy and what is not. What is ultimately aligned with my goal and what is not. Because vichara will give you now efficiency. You have only certain time of the day. 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of school perhaps or work. And then the remaining 8 hours is your precious time. What are you going to do? What pursuits are you going to pursue in those remaining time? Are we going to just while away our time? Are we going to just do meaningless pursuits because Joe is doing it? Or are we going to really employ vichara and say, this is good for me versus this is not? Shreyas versus prayas. Prayas is completely short-term pleasure. Shreyas is long-term benefit. Even in the short term, it may be a lot of pain, but in the long term, it gives me a lot of that. Bhagavan Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he gives the example of avla. You know how the avla is? Gooseberry, right? In the beginning, it is very bitter and sour, but then you just keep on patiently sucking on it, it becomes sweet. That is sattvika. That is sattvika. He is using the gunas. Rajas is very sweet in the beginning, like sugar, refined sugar. But then it gives a lot of pain and misery in the end. Right? We all know why. So that is rajas. So vichara is to do that deliberation, to think before you jump in, whether this is worth pursuing, whether this is something worthy of my investment in terms of time, resources and energy, or should I drop it? Vichara is your foundation behind viveka. And viveka is real discrimination. This is the first step, rational deliberation. Then viveka means discrimination. That means you already know. You are already, no, this is not for me, this is for me, this is not for me. Like that you are. And decisions are made quickly. You don't have to, you don't dilly-dally. You don't spend a lot of choices are draining. Have you thought about it? Too many choices drains your energy. Because you have to put your mental energy behind every choice and think about what's going to happen. Viveka will conserve your energy. Vichara will conserve your energy. And then Viveka builds you Vairagya. The next step is ultimately, because now you need to start dropping. When others are pursuing it, you are dropping it. Whatever pursuit they may be. There are so many pursuits you are doing, right? But when you have Viveka and Vairagya, you are so clear that you don't even feel like it's a sacrifice that I'm giving up. You're not giving up anything. You're just making the word decision. Decision comes from seize. Seize is to walk on a certain path, like incision. The surgeon makes an incision, like cut on a certain point on the skin. That's incision. So seisin means to go. If there are many choices, it drains it. But decision is now, I'm removing the 9 choices easily because I've employed my vichara and viveka and there is only one choice. Very easy decision making. Helps a lot. So achara, vichara, then comes shraddha. Shraddha is a reverential attitude towards the teachings, towards the practice, towards the Guru, and so on. Reverential attitude. If achara was absorbed passively through the household traditions, shraddha is something you employ actively. It is the effort you make to create that ambience. We all know ambience is so powerful. When you go to a restaurant, you talk about ambience. The food was good, but how much of it was the ambience that they created? Shraddha is that ambience behind the learning, the environment you create. Shraddha is when the student comes in early, 10 minutes early before the class starts. Shraddha is when you come in and you maybe clean the floor so that the surrounding is clean. Because I've come early, I have time, let me employ myself to purify the space. Shraddha is when you have a good posture, when you sit up with the spine straight and you are alert and awake towards the teaching because you are 100% focused. Shraddha is when you put away the phone and you are able to, for the time being, devote yourself completely towards the teacher and the teachings. Shraddha is when you are not putting your foot towards the teacher and sitting back and with an attitude of what do you have to say. Right? This Zoom culture now, perhaps, has hurt our Shraddha somewhat. When your teacher is somewhere on the other side of the screen and you are here and you put the video off and you do something as you are listening, Shraddha is affected. Shraddha is very powerful for absorbing the knowledge. To have the knowledge bless you. Shraddha builds nishtha. And then nishtha builds vishwas. Vishwas is belief, conviction. Nishtha is conviction that makes you practice again and again and again. Like Shraddha, yoga practice is good for my health. In the beginner, I don't know it. In the beginning, it's a lot of pain to bend my body, touch my toes. But Shraddha, towards the teacher and towards the practice and towards the teachings and the scripture, and you go on the mat with the bhava Shraddha, you will, after a period of time, experience grace, krupa. So Shraddha plus grace builds your nishtha. Because then no one needs to tell you that this is good for your health. Because you are seeing it. Grace is tangible. Shraddha is intangible. You are bringing it in. But blessing is tangible. You will see some transformation. Maybe the weight will come down, maybe your metabolic profile improves, maybe your cholesterol improves. I am giving you the example of yoga. But that is true for any learning that you have, towards any teacher that you have. You have Shraddha, you will grasp that subject much, much, much better. Shraddha is something you bring on the table. Grace is a blessing from the universe, from the Lord, from Ishvara. It's a reward for your Shraddha. And with that reward, you are now doubly convinced that this is so good for me. That I am transforming. I am becoming a better person. And this is worthy of my pursuit. So this will then help you with your Viveka and Vichara. And your Achara. So, Achara is very good for your Shraddha. Because how you conduct, you just, not having that background of respecting elders, is difficult to build Shraddha. But now we are all Bharatiya. We have that background. We have seen how our parents treat their parents. We have a tradition. We know the value of teachers in our society. So that Shraddha is easier to build, relatively speaking. But you have to put your effort. And then with grace, Nishta, then Nishta Vishwa. We said Shraddha Vishwasa Rupino when we chanted in the beginning. Bhavani Shankarao Vande Shraddha Vishwasa Rupino. Yabhyam Vinana Pashyanti Siddhaha Swantastam Ishwaram. We want to know the ultimate truth about ourselves. We want to know the higher self that resides in me. Even the Siddhas, those who are accomplished yogis, they are not able to see unless they have Shraddha and Vishwas. Shraddha maturing into Vishwas. Vishwas is the fructified Shraddha. Shraddha is you put you water the plant and everything, and finally the fruit will come out as Vishwas. Vishwas is, you can say, it's unshakable faith. Vishwas is when really you don't need a teacher anymore. You are the teacher. You are the role model. You are the epitome of that value. You go out there because you have lived it. You have not only learned it, but you have lived it and experienced it in your real life. Right? So far clear? And then finally, Sewa. Ultimately, what are you doing on this for? Is to serve mankind, is to serve humanity, is to give of yourself for the benefit of the world. Sewa satiates the need to be served in return. Seva is that powerful that you will drop the need to be served in return. Selfless service. Wanting to give for the sake of giving. You cannot mother your mother back. Right? You cannot mother your mother back. That is Seva. The Seva that the mother has given you, you cannot return it back. So that Seva has satiated her need to be served in return. To be served in return. The opposite of Seva is taking something that doesn't belong to me. Taking something that doesn't belong to me. Or expecting something that doesn't belong to me. Have you heard of the story of the dog and Rama? In Ramayana? So the story goes like this. The dog is outside the palace of Rama and is seeking justice and is wanting justice. So actually, the sun is almost setting and everybody is retiring for the day, and Rama recognizes that somebody is there seeking justice, and the day is never over until anyone who comes for justice is served. So he tells Lakshmana goes out there, says no one. He said check. Lakshmana comes back and goes out and checks and says there's only a dog. He said that dog is seeking justice, bring him in. So the dog comes in. So, what do you want? So the dog says, so and so hit me in anger. And so he said, okay, well, he's a Brahmana, he's a bhikshu. Bhikshu is someone who seeks alms. So bring him in. So they bring that Sarvartha Siddha, his name is Sarvartha Siddha. He comes in. So he asks, why did you hit? So he says, I was walking by seeking alms and this fellow was in between and would not move. So I took a stone and hit him in my anger. Now you can punish me because I agree, I should not have done that. So the Rama turns to the dog and says, what do you think is a just punishment for him? So the dog says, make him the Kulapati, the chief priest of a certain community. Everybody's stunned. Really? Is that a punishment? That sounds like a very cool reward. You're going to be the chief priest, and chief priests had a lot of honor back then. You're Kulapati. So even the person is stunned. But he says, okay, he's going to give me anyway. This is the dog's justice. So everybody is stunned. Dog says, yes, that's my punishment. So Rama says, yes, let it be carried out. So the elephant and the procession all come because now this person is suddenly, this bhikshu is suddenly a Kulapati. So he sits on the elephant and goes. When everybody goes, then he asks the dog, now can you explain why you did this? So the dog says, in my past life, I was that position. And as a Kulapati, people would come and bring all these gifts. It was meant for the altar. It was meant for the altar. You're supposed to take a vow of poverty. You're supposed to take a vow of that this is not mine. But the dog says that despite all my practices and spiritual practices and trying hard to stay clean, I got contaminated. I started using that wealth. I started using that wealth as if it was mine. Because anyway it was altars and I am the chief priest and I am the so-and-so. So I thought I can use it. And this is now I'm like that. Because see, the dog is a metaphor. It's not a little dog that is talking to Rama. You have to understand the subtleties of the story. The dog means what? It's a dog life. That means a human life is actually a human being, but is living like a dog. That means he's dependent for his sustenance to the other people. He's living as a beggar, even though he's able, built, circumstances are such that he has to beg for a living, and that is equivalent to a dog life. So the bhikshu was he was upset that this person is coming in the way. And so the dog says that I know exactly his mindset. I know that anger. I am familiar with that anger. That anger is going to be his trap. When he becomes the Kulapati, he is not going to stay pure and he will suffer from his own consequences because of his anger. Because he has seen the bhikshu's anger. And if the bhikshu recognizes the trap, he will have to purify himself through practices. And he'll have to stay clean so that this doesn't get contaminated. So either way, the dog is giving a just punishment to the bhikshu to decide, now you choose, how do you want to live? If you get trapped and get carried away, and you are not the master of your mind, and you become the slave of your mind, you're going to have a dog life existence like me. But on the other hand, you choose through self-mastery and self-empowerment, and you stay clean despite all these temptations around you, then you will rise above yourself. So you can redeem yourself. What a powerful punishment. He gave the choice to the bhikshu. You choose your own punishment as though. So that's the opposite of seva. Seva is when we take something that doesn't belong to us. Red Cross. Overhead of Red Cross was 48% at one point. Not now. And then they investigated. Red Cross, you know, right? It's a charitable organization. Any earthquake, any calamity, they come. When they investigated, they found the CEO, the president, the vice president flying first class, business class, living in 5-star hotels. That is taking something that doesn't belong to you. Sewa International, president, vice president, I know how they travel. Their overhead is 4%. And when you give money for Sewa International, this is not an advertisement for Sewa International. I am just saying, this is the practice of taking something that doesn't belong to me versus constantly giving. There are subtle consequences. You may not suffer the consequences in this life, but the story of Rama and the dog reminds us that to stay and adhere to the higher values and principles and constantly give, because therein lies our purification. Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavan says Dhanam. Dhanam is a form of seva, because we are using our opportunity and our skills, whether it is our energy, whether it is our wealth, whether it is our skills, whether it is our intellect, we are using it for others, for the sake of others, for the benefit of others. And that is a purifying act. Purifying act. At the end of the day, you cannot gain wisdom until you are purified enough and until you are quiet enough. The mental quietude and the purification is absolutely necessary for the wisdom to dawn on us. The dawning of wisdom. So, with this connected, you work towards further. I'll stop here. Maybe you have any questions. Yes.